Hey there, today an airline pilot is answering your top 4 most asked questions for travel. The number 1 question that my Travel Tips by Laurie community had for an airline pilot is, why must passengers put their phones in airplane mode before the plane takes off? And before we get started, I need to let you know that he does not represent any airline.
Well, if you ever have listened to an FM radio station in the car and you're between two of the radio stations, you'll get some of one radio station as some of the other. That's kind of the interference between two radio frequencies. And a lot of cell phones and other electronic devices operate at a frequency that is very close to the frequencies we use for our instrument landing system, or basically the way we're guided down to the runway in poor visibility. So the concern is, if you have a cell phone on at low altitudes and we're close to the ground, we may get some interference from our radio signal, which could kind of basically show us we're either off course when we really are on, or we're too high when we're really right on our level altitude. So there's 2 ways we can mitigate the problem. The first one is for the airplane manufacturer to test every single electronic device out there, and that would take years and cost a lot of money. Or we can just prohibit passengers from using them. Usually from 10,000 feet down to the ground is when it's the most critical. And so that's why we ask people to put their cell phones in airplane mode, which disables the cellular function of your telephone.
One thing that many of you may be wondering is, how do flight attendants or crew know if you have an electronic device that is not in airplane mode? Like, is it unsafe? Is it that big of a risk that passenger is taking?
I think the risk is small, but it's a risk. So if we have a way to mitigate the risk, then that's what we're going to do, because we always take the safest course of action in aviation.
Just so you know, I have him in another room for microphone reasons, and I just thought it was more professional than us sitting on the floor with this other microphone that I have. Last year in the news, there were some scary headlines out there that were saying that the 5G towers were going to interfere with airplane radar systems and could make the flight end in disaster. What is that true?
So the issue that came about last year with the 5G is similar to the electronic devices. There's a device on the airplane, in the belly of the plane, that is called a radar altimeter. And this radar altimeter basically shoots a signal from the belly of the plane down to the ground, and it times how long it takes it to get back to the airplane. And that is how the airplane measures its height above the ground. And in poor visibility conditions, an airplane can land itself. We just are sitting there making sure it's doing what it's supposed to do. And one of the systems that the automatic landing system uses is a radar altimeter. So the concern was, when 5G came about, that the radar altimeter may get either incorrect information or no information, and this is what's telling the airplane, for instance, when to pull the nose up to flare for a landing. So the concern was, having 5G towers near airports could cause issues with automatic landing systems. So when 5G was turned on, the first thing the FAA did was ban all airplanes from using automatic landing systems in the presence of 5G until they could figure out how to mitigate the problem, which isn't very sustainable. If you think about airports like Seattle, Portland, places that have consistent low visibility, you'd basically prohibit almost every airplane from landing there. So the phone companies agreed not to install 5G towers or turn them on for a period of 6 months near major airports. And now the airplane manufacturers and airlines are going through and making sure that all the radar altimeter systems on all their airplanes have been fixed or somehow mitigated, so that this will not cause an issue when 5G is fully unveiled. Overseas airports, or the cell systems in Europe and Asia, use a much lower power transmitter, so it was not thought to be a problem. The ones in the United States use much higher power transmitters, which can send the frequencies further. And it is the responsibility of the airline to ensure that that specific airplane has had an alternate means of compliance with this issue. And if not, then the pilots will be told that this airplane cannot be used to do an auto land. So we would either have to find a different airport to land at, or add additional gas, so that if we got to the primary airport and we could not land, then we could have enough gas to get to some other airport and figure out what to do next.
You may remember from a few years ago when a luggage company put a charger on the inside of a suitcase so that you could have a convenient way to charge your phone in the airport. But if that is checked luggage or a carry-on bag that now has to be checked into the belly of the airplane, airlines quickly found this mistake and said that if you have that in your suitcase and it last minute gets checked to the belly of the airplane, or if it's in your checked luggage, you would have to take out that charger. And the only way you could take it out was with a screwdriver. And who carries that weapon through the TSA line anymore? Now that company and many others who've installed that in those kind of bags or in your backpacks, for example, they've made it so that you can manually remove that before flight so that it stays in the cabin of the airplane. And now in 2023, with so many of us packing a cell phone portable charger in our carry-on suitcase or in our personal item bag, why do airlines or the gate agent at where the plane is parked, why do they say if you have a cell phone charger, it needs to be with you in the cabin of the airplane? It can't be checked.
Really, the issue is the battery itself. Lithium-ion batteries, which are very popular now in cell phone chargers, just any kind of power supply, because it can charge relatively quickly. The downside is if one of those cells is ruptured, the chemical inside the battery is highly flammable when it's exposed to oxygen. So the concern is with those types of bags, if you were to put one in the cargo compartment of an airplane and it did get cracked and exposed to air, it could catch on fire. And now we have a fire in the cargo compartment, which most all airplanes have a fire suppression system. But I can tell you as a pilot, if I have a fire in the cargo compartment, we are going to get on the ground as soon as we possibly can. So the way to mitigate this issue is to just not allow those types of bags in the belly of the airplane. Any type of lithium-ion battery is the concern to have it in the cargo compartment. We'd rather have it with you, whereas if it does rupture in the cabin of the airplane, we have a way we can contain that without having to necessarily land and fire a cargo suppression system, which basically is a fire extinguisher in the cargo compartment.
Another hot topic for travel, which has now been updated in this year, is luggage trackers. Some of them carry a lithium-ion battery. The Federal Aviation Administration says that if the lithium that is in that battery is less than 0.3 grams, then it is considered safe to be in the cargo hold. The Apple AirTags, for example, only have a 0.1 gram amount of lithium in it, so those are way below the safety limit. But a surprising tip is that some of those luggage trackers are not within the weight. Our travel tip is to Google your airline and luggage trackers or AirTags. On some movies or television shows that replay dramatizations of what goes on in the cockpit, sometimes you hear souls on board. What does that mean? Why do you have to refer to passengers like that?
I really think souls on board is a throwback from a lot of nautical terms. Aviation gets a lot of the similar terms from ships. So I think the souls on board had to do with the difference between a passenger and a crew member. So when we talk about the passengers on board, that's us referring to customers who have paid to get on the airplane. When we talk about crew members on board, that is crew members that are actually working the flight. You could also have crew members that are sitting in the passenger seats, and we could refer to them as also crew members. But when we talk about the souls on board, if we have an aircraft emergency in the air and we declare an emergency with air traffic controllers, they will ask how many souls on board, and that's basically how many human beings that are alive are currently on the airplane. And really this has to do with that they're going to take that information and pass it down to the airport rescue and firefighters, so that should they have to enter an airplane to look for people, they know about exactly how many people they should be looking for.
I think he has the natural gift of teaching, which hopefully will help you remember why airlines have rules that make no sense, maybe to you as a passenger. Now, we as an airline family pack only in a carry-on suitcase because most of the time we fly standby and we never know if we're going to be able to check our bag or not. So I have many packing tips that will help you pack light and pack in an efficient way for your vacation. And I'll link some of those in the description box paragraph below, right above the t-shirts that are designed for our YouTube channel community. You will see the beginning of a sentence. You're going to click show more or read more. If you're watching me on an iPad, it might be an upside down triangle only, but that will give you other information and some videos that will help you. Please let us know if you have any other questions for an airline pilot, and we'll get a video up for you. And say hey if you have not met me, if we have not met yet. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for the questions, and thanks for watching my wife's YouTube channel.